In November 2025, Roblox YouTuber Parlo will be exposed for scamming his fans by making a GoFundMe and claiming that he needed the money for food and rent when he already had plenty enough in his bank account. This would cause many people to go after him, as it's pretty pathetic to see a YouTuber with over 600,000 subscribers scam their fans like this, and in turn this would catch the attention of many outsiders not that familiar with the guy, outsiders such as myself. However, what I initially thought was just another story of a scammer ruining their career online quickly unraveled into a rabbit hole of some of the most disturbing actions, all stemming from a single person since they were a teenager, and I soon found myself in the midst of one of the most insane people that has ever graced not only the Roblox scene, but the general YouTube landscape. Parlo's beginnings all started in October 2019 when, after YouTuber JT released a video showing that some random channel with 62 subscribers named Parlophone Records was listed as the #1 channel on Social Blade, he alongside many others would make copycat channels to try and dupe people into subscribing to them by pretending to be the real Parlophone Records. You can even see that the day JT uploaded his video was the same exact day Parlo started his YouTube channel, further showing his original intentions with its creation. Now, Parlo was just 14 years old at the time, and so the content he would make would be low-effort garbage clickbait trying to start beef with JT, funnily enough, in some of the uploads. And though these have since been lost to time, you can already tell that they sucked, and Parlo was trying to make these as a way to fish for easy attention. He would eventually turn to making low-effort clickbait garbage on Roblox YouTubers and the Roblox scene in general, given he was a fan of the game, marking this the beginning of his YouTube career. Now, there are rumors that Parlo ran multiple fake Parlophone Records channels, but nothing concrete outside of two as far as I've seen, with that being his main channel Parlo and Parlo Gaming here. Interestingly enough, Parlo Gaming is actually older than his main channel Parlo, as that was started on May 3rd, 2019, showing that running multiple Parlophone Record channels was something that he went full force into. He even used to run a channel called Traptown NCS, as he would admit to selling it to somebody in December 2020. So yeah, it was clear Parlo really wanted that internet fame despite being a young teenager at this time.
Moving on to the Traptown account, I had sold it to someone who I am not specifying. That is why there is a video of them backstabbing me and trying to start unnecessary drama, which I regret even.
Now, it was actually back in July that year when he posted a video apologizing for all the clickbait troll shit that he used to do, like faking people's deaths and harassing others online, meaning that he was now taking this YouTube stuff seriously instead of just mildly pissing people off for easy laughs. This would come to fruition with the 2020 video Content Nuke, Lisa Gaming Roblox, a 23-minute video exposing Roblox YouTuber Lisa Gaming for the world to see. Now, Lisa Gaming was a shit-stirring troll similar to Parlo, as you can see based on her content scrolling down your screen. In most of the videos, calling her out for calling people names and faking having cancer, making fun of people, and basically just giving the troll the attention they want. But Parlo will pull up and show some actual heinous shit, such as Lisa threatening to post a 14-year-old's nudes from Snapchat in her Discord server and threatening to leak more stuff as well, alongside doxing his friend Lofi simply for calling her content trash. This would mark the beginning of what would become his future content of exposing problematic people in the Roblox community, and seeing how successful this video was, he would continue to milk the Lisa Gaming cow dry as he grew fast on YouTube, eclipsing over 100,000 subscribers and gaining thousands upon thousands of views off her name alone by the time 2021 had come and gone. However, it was in 2022 where things would start to get rough for the guy, and in turn give us the first example of Parlo's rather unhinged nature when the cards were stacked against him. In March 2022, 16-year-old Parlo and his friends 14-year-old Sarp and 13-year-old Curb would release a document titled The Lisa Files, giving people much deeper insight on Lisa Gaming and the people who surround her. Except it's mostly a disjointed mess with very little cohesion and was clearly written by a bunch of young teenagers even if he didn't know beforehand, and it doesn't help that there's this one specific section that completely turned everything on its head. You see, on page 60 of the document, there's this one part where they expose a person for sending CP on Discord, with the writer admitting to blurring it and then scribbling all over the image, meaning that whichever of these three did this unbeknownst to them in their appetite for justice downloaded exactly what you think they did. It doesn't help that when Twitter user SmaggleBSC will point out how they just downloaded CP, instead of taking that out of the document, they would double down by adding some more text and clarify furthermore that they downloaded CP but that their intentions weren't heinous whatsoever. They even changed the text a third time, showing just how badly things turned on them once this document was released, completely fumbling the bag in the process now that the heat was on them. The thing here is, I am 100% confident the trio aren't pedos and were doing this for the betterment of the Roblox scene, but by downloading the illicit material, whoever did so indirectly implicates themselves in this situation and opens themselves up for potential criminal investigation, screwing everything up tenfold. Parlo would respond to, of all people, Tipster, and throw Sarp under the bus by saying he was the one who worked on that part of the document, and then tries to get in a jab back at him by saying, quote, "This just goes on to show how little research you put into these claims," a typical kind of action he would become very well known for in the future. He then goes on to state that he will be contacting the proper authorities and that he had never done this before, so it was all new to him, hence why he and his friends screwed up so badly here. A few days later, Parlo would release the Lisa Gaming Roblox Files, a 25-minute video on the document that he and his friends made going over everything for his wider audience to see. Now, even though there was that controversy going on, to be fair, it was already solved pretty quickly within the day the document dropped, and given he was the oldest of the bunch at just 16 years old, it was clear these three were doing this in good faith to help expose these wrongdoings for the Roblox community to see. They just screwed up pretty badly whilst doing so. However, there was one part of the video that I feel is worth showing, and it's Parlo stating that he believes heinous trolls like Lisa and friends shouldn't be ignored like how most people do, but rather exposed to the public instead.
I have been making my point evidence for months now that Lisa is a danger to this community, but I was attacked and ignored for it. Belittlement and excuses were consistently made for these people, and these actions were covered up from the greater public of the Roblox community to eventually overlook and ignore. The mentality people hold that we shouldn't give attention to trolls is warped into a false narrative now that we should ignore their illegal depravity. And because of this, Lisa has gotten away with it.
This justice complex is a very telling sign of how Parlo acts, because to him, people should be up in arms against trolls who do this nasty stuff, but in the process, by giving the trolls the attention they want, they will only continue to do what they're doing. On top of that, the trolls who are watching the video can see how emotional Parlo is getting by the tone of his voice, and they prey on that kind of emotion as it's a sign they're getting in your head, and so will continue on with this newfound target. Parlo being unable to go the smarter route ahead and instead engage in this war against Lisa and friends is the first of many instances of feeding the trolls, and in his case, he is not mentally stable enough to handle any of that whatsoever. On March 8th, just a week after the Lisa Gaming Files fiasco, Parlo would make a post on Twitter vaguely talking about his myriad of mental issues such as anxiety, eating disorders, breakdowns, and many more, telling people to not make the same mistakes as he did, which only added questions as to what exactly was going on with him. This seemed to be related to seeing a bunch of people trash on him online for fumbling the Lisa Gaming situation as a post prior implies. And notably enough, the person he's specifically calling out is RS Warren Nation, someone who initially appeared as a collaborator on Content Nuke Lisa Gaming, showing that he was upset a supposed friend would like a comment saying his dad will beat him. He would make another post online showing a YouTube commentator saying things like how he fakes his dad being abusive for sympathy and how he's basically terminally online, with him very clearly on the edge of a mental breakdown as the hate comments were getting too much to handle. On March 10th, Parlo would post his suicide note, a note that I can't fully show on screen due to just how graphic it is as it would be breaking YouTube TOS, so I will only be able to show small snippets when possible. In said note, he goes into graphic detail about his self-harming activities and how his father allegedly abuses him and that he's attempted before in the past, calling the Roblox scene the most toxic community he's ever been a part of in his life. He vents a lot about how everyone online seems to hate him and that he can't handle it and says his goodbyes basically, with many people going into overdrive to figure out his personal info so that they could call the police to get him help. 2 days later, Parlo would make a second attempt on himself, this time with a belt in his father's conservatory, but says he backed out at the last minute seeing that there was no turning back if he went through. The weirdest part to me, however, is his reply to the post, in which he says daily uploads are back now on track in a seemingly jovial tone given the exclamation mark at the end, showing that he was still in a very bad mental space as the juxtaposition going on here was just that palpable to witness. In fact, in a reply to somebody showing their befuddlement to everything going on asking what exactly to say, Parlo would tell him to read, laugh, move on, and forget, showing that he even views his own mental breakdown as a comedic set of actions for people to enjoy, showing the variety of emotions the dude was going through with every passing minute seeming to contradict the previous emotion he was feeling. It was clear the dude was manic, and so friends were able to contact the police and get him to his place, in which Parlo would start to lose his mind in his Discord server and call people a bunch of choice names and even threaten whoever these people were, quote, "I'm finding who you are, you'll regret that heavily." It was clear that he was completely losing his mind again, and whoever ruined his plans to harm himself were gonna face the wrath of him once he got better, showing a notable example of him being a very vindictive person. He even posted proof the police broke down his door, as it was clear this wasn't some joke or him completely going insane on everyone online, but people actually wanting to do what is right, even if it ruined Parlo's plans for himself. Parlo would go on to post a video showing that he was currently being held in the hospital for a few days as people were wondering what was going on now as he was silent for almost a whole day. He would even show the police outside his home as further proof this isn't some sick joke but an actual event that was going down, and then go on to complain about people on Twitter making fun of him instead of just ignoring the trolls, as it was clear he was gearing up to get back on his shit. He would even start to accuse people of swatting him when that wasn't the case, as swatting implies malicious intent and these people didn't call the police for bad reasons. They wanted to stop him from potentially game ending, showing that he was twisting the situation to fit the false narrative in his head to victimize himself. During his time in the hospital, he would start cutting people off who likely weren't kowtowing to him and basically blaming everyone around him, showing a severe lack of self-awareness, which honestly isn't too surprising given his mental state, but it clearly only made him look worse in the situation here. He would even post videos talking about this on YouTube for his audience to see, but it seemed that everything was starting to chill out now that he was out of the hospital and back to posting on YouTube again. Except, things had taken an extremely dark turn as some former friends are going to show that during this crash out, Parlo was directly sending them images of him harming himself in order to incite fear and scare them into submission as he was going completely insane. It's some insanely dark shit because it was clear he was losing his mind, as only the most deranged of people tend to act in a way like this in their attempts to seek attention and victimize themselves. I mean, the dude is literally saying things like, "It burns like shit, ooh woo," and was literally begging them to click on the pictures he was sending in this fucked up mental state of his. And it would only continue on as he would admit to both crying and laughing while doing all this to himself as his friends continued to watch him spiral in their Discord chat. It would only get worse as it would turn out Parlo was not only doing this to his friends, but also to his Discord server members, a server full of many minors like himself at the time. While there is no hard evidence of him doing it as no one screen recorded what was going down, his friends and random members as young as 13 years old would talk about it as they plan to figure out what to do next as he completely lost his mind. It's some truly disturbing stuff, and we can only imagine just how badly he was going to town on his arm with all those poor kids watching. And at one point, he even went silent as everybody started freaking out before coming back to the mic, only to start blaming others for supposedly DDoSing him. As we already know, people would call the police and he would be sent to the hospital. But yeah, Parlo put all these kids in an extremely distressing situation and was blaming everyone else around him because of his severe mental issues. But the reason this didn't make much movement at the time was because he was 16 years old, and so people brushed it off as just another young person who didn't know any better. An excuse like this actually makes a little bit of sense because there are a lot of fucked up young teenagers, but it doesn't justify sending this stuff to his minor fans who aren't even his friends. Nonetheless, he would move on from this situation, and it's worth noting that Parlo did apologize to the current person we've seen for what he put him through a year later, albeit after he was facing backlash once more people learned of what he did a year prior, but it showed he at least understood he was a messed up person back then, showing signs of betterment. Now for the next year and a half, Parlo would continue to make content on his channel as he got back to his normal drama instigation type videos that the young kids ate up. But things would get rocky once again as in late summer 2023, Parlo's former boyfriend Burger will leak DMs of him sexting just days after the March 2022 crash out. Given they were both minors and going over someone's spicy DMs is pointless in my opinion as it's people just feeling some type of way just like humans are meant to be, I won't be going into detail on them. Some more leaks would even come out of him directly saying and doing weird shit in his Discord server full of minors, and while again he was just a teenager at the time doing stupid teenager stuff, it still makes him look pretty bad given he has a reputation of being the guy who exposes other people for being degenerates, yet is virtually doing the same exact things himself behind the scenes. Like the images on screen, they're very clearly just dumb, edgy jokes, yet bad actors are going to take this and spin it as if he's actually a pedo, and in turn instead of just ignoring the trolls, Parlo will either make a video on YouTube calling them out for easy money and for making fun of him, or he'll go on a complaint on Twitter about it despite giving them the ammo they needed to use against him, with this endless cycle of Parlo versus the trolls coming full circle yet again. The lack of self-awareness is very easy to see in Parlo, hence why he's such an easy trolling victim, and in fact, Parlo, instead of just ignoring the leaks and moving on with his life, would instead start to livestream on his channel on September 1st, signal boosting all of this embarrassing information to his 3,000 subscribers as he wanted revenge for the trolls going after him, giving people some good old classic internet spurging in the process.
Look! 111 replies. Now you may be wondering, I wonder what the replies are like. Let's go check, shall we? Oh look, it's the same image. All of these people keep spamming the same image, and it's not funny. This image isn't funny anymore. I never said this. This image is not funny. The guy who made it is friends with an alleged pedophile. I don't understand why you keep spamming this meme. You've got no friends. You've got no friends. You've got no dignity. You get no women. You're a loser. Go do your homework. No one likes you. You are only on Twitter because this is the only place where you can get any validation in your sad sack piece of shit life. No one likes you. hop off. You do this and lie to my fans saying I died of leukemia, and you even spelt it wrong, you moron. You even spelled leukemia. Leukemia. Can you even spell? This guy's like a dwarven hobbit who crawled out of a Tibetan cave hole, and he cannot spell. He's a Neanderthal, bro. He's like, ooga booga fire, ooga booga fire. You can't even spell leukemia. One Google search, and you'd be able to know how to spell it. You're a moron. Other screenshot makes Burger look like a horrible, garbage human being. You have no friends, you get no bitches, your grandma hates you, your mom hates you, and you're gonna grow up to be Jeffrey Epstein. No one likes you. Get some friends or go to a psych ward. No one likes you. You're a loser. You're a little cockroach. Every time I step in dog shit, I'm like, oh look, I stepped in Burger. No one likes you. And I have every right to be mad. You're garbage. No one likes you. Get some friends. All of the people on Twitter. If you are the person who's actively... 80 replies. Alright, I'm gonna go check these replies, because some people think it's really funny to post Ronnie McNutt blowing his head off with a shotgun in my replies, so... I am never backing down because of these losers. I am never backing down. And I would like to see any YouTuber try and call me out for exposing these people, because they won't. Because you know why? Because these people are slandering me. I'm probably... Guys, should I deactivate from Twitter and just never come back? Should I just deactivate from Twitter and never come back? Should I do that? Should I honestly do that? Yeah, they give me free content, I guess, but... Like, contrary to popular belief, I don't enjoy doing, like, these drama streams, really. I feel obligated to do it because these people are, like, just harassing me. And I think it's time that I save myself from degeneracy on Twitter. I'll do it later on after I've won the drama, but like I feel like it's better for my mental health and everyone else's if everyone just doesn't use Twitter.
I've already been saying this, but Parlo is a very easy target to go after because he completely takes the bait, as you could tell by the clips he just went through. So it's no wonder he keeps running into issues with him. In fact, the last clip where he said that he needs to win this drama is another notable thing about him, as to him, once something starts, he absolutely cannot lose the beef going on, but the trolls who go at him don't care about winning or losing some stupid drama. They just want to see him get mad. And he doesn't even seem to realize it, as he's playing right into them hook, line, and sinker by making all these videos about him, and in this case, going on to complain about him in a live stream. He's a fool and he doesn't even realize it, and trust me, it only gets worse from here on out. As while the things we've gone over so far are basically just Parlo being a classic internet spurg, the next set of events take things up a notch and show just how deep the situations Parlo involves himself can get. Yep, I know some of y'all recognize that face on screen already, but for those who don't know who that is, this is the face of Nathrix, one of the most prolific Roblox predators and pedophiles on YouTube. Older viewers of the channel know this story already, as seen by my videos made on the man, but to give a quick rundown as to not waste too much time here. Nathrix is a transgender Roblox predator that has been exposed more times than I can count for his numerous sexual interactions with minors, and every time he'd be exposed for this, he would change his name online to try and slither away from everything, with notable names being Scrimzox, Natty Forsyth, and a whole bunch of others on screen that are not worth naming for the sake of this video's pacing. Even as recently as October 2025, he'll be exposed again, as Parlo will make a Twitter thread showing that they sent a nude image to a 17-year-old despite knowing her age and being 25 himself, with Nathrix of course going on to deactivate the account, as he's likely moved on to yet another new identity online as he continues to prey on children. Now you might be thinking, wow, Parlo is actually doing a good thing here by keeping people in touch with Nathrix's whereabouts. What exactly is the issue here? Well, my friends, it turns out that Parlo looked up to Nathrix back in the day, eventually becoming friends with him in 2022. In fact, it seemed Parlo was aware of the allegations surrounding him, as he would be seen making crude jokes in a group chat alluding to such in December that same year, even saying he won't drop him as a friend because he's helping spread a document about some Roblox person he was exposing at the time. In fact, it seemed that there were a decent amount of people behind the scenes who knew just how predatory Nathrix is, as the convo would continue with Parlo trying to change the subject to his friends apparently creating doxpins of minors, showing this whole group of people's fucked up in their own ways. Despite knowing some of the allegations surrounding Nathrix, this wouldn't stop Parlo from meeting up with him in real life just a few days later in late December that year, showing that he clearly didn't give a fuck he was hanging out with him because it wasn't widely known to the public yet.
Okay, so we are live with,
How many
the
people
chaos.
watching?
No one's here.
No one's fucking watching.
I've just made it public because I realized on phone you need to go to the browser and make it public. So
I think you've got think it says up there you got 0 people watch. Or 1 person who's green Lego cats himself. Got fucking squat.
Yeah, so
diddly
Apollo
shit.
doesn't want to show his face, guys, but this is Paulo. Talk.
Oh my god, it's me, the Chaos Creator. Fuck you.
Now, I would drop my first video on Nathrix in January 2023, just a month later, showing everybody just how predatory he is, in which for the first time people in the wider Roblox scene were finally able to get a concise breakdown on the controversy surrounding it. However, the more important part here is that the story of Nathrix was finally made public, and thus everybody now knew how sick of a person he is, meaning that Parlo, even though there was a chance he didn't know just how deep it went, hence why he was hanging out with him, now knew the truth about his friend, as I know for a fact he knows about my video on him, given it was the first concise breakdown on Nathrix on YouTube. Let's just say there's more to this that we'll get into in a short while, but I figured it's worth going over another familiar face for the sake of this chapter. In February 2022, a commentary YouTuber named Grimsy would become known for making videos on random subjects, Parlo included. It was in one of these videos where Jalen, yes, that Jalen, the transgender crash out queen in the commentary scene I kept up with for a while for you old school fans of the channel, would comment something that would piss off Parlo to degrees never seen before. What might that comment be, you may ask? Why, none other than a simple joke saying Parlo fell off after he stopped using text-to-speech for his videos. Now Parlo, someone who was Jalen's friend at the time, couldn't tell this was a small joke either because he's stupid or whatever, and so in his fit of rage he would go on to attack Jalen in a Twitter thread, bringing up things like how she profits off people's deaths despite making similar content and basically just reaching as far as he possibly can to try and make her look bad. It's some good old classic internet spurging that nobody would take seriously because everyone can tell Parlo's just bitching and whining in this case, and so Jalen would make a response video basically saying he's just overreacting. However, she would pull up and show that Parlo was ordering his fans on Discord to mass support videos he didn't like, meaning that Parlo is weaponizing his fanbase behind the scenes against somebody in this case named Lieutenant Maiko as he reveled in the power that was given to him. Parlo would make a 30-minute response video, but it's boring as hell and basically just him trying to justify exposing Jalen for her super awful and mean joke despite nobody over the age of 10 giving a fuck. And eventually, a month later, Jalen would release a quick 2-minute video basically saying they squashed their beef and are chill with each other now and that this was all stupid to begin with.
So I just wanted to make a quick video letting everyone know that the drama between Parlo and I is officially over. A few days ago, we ended up hopping in a call and just talking everything over, and we came to an understanding that we both just have a difference of opinions and that he shouldn't have made that post over a joke that I made.
Now for the next year, things would be pretty quiet as they continued to be friends with each other, but that would change in summer 2023 after Grimsy made another video making fun of Parlo, basically just calling him names and saying mean things about him, such as that he's a pedo lover and was suicide baiting people back in March as we just went over. Parlo, instead of just ignoring the hater clearly just saying this shit to get a rise out of him, would instead enact a new plan for revenge, a plan that involved reporting any and all videos that Grimsy had made on him. The reason people found this out was because Jalen would end up coming out to the public to expose his plan as he went straight to her trying to convince her to send one herself, as Grimsy now had 2 strikes on his channel, with a 3rd one needed in order to completely terminate his channel off YouTube. It honestly wasn't shocking at all to see Parlo try to manipulate his friends into his bidding, especially when it came to just another troll saying mean things about him, but it was still pretty shocking to see Jalen of all people have the conscience to make the right move here. What's more interesting, however, is that Parlo would be seen warning none other than Nathrix himself about how Jalen betrayed him and that she'll betray him next, meaning that despite my video releasing showing the world how disgusting of a person Nathrix is, Parlo was still hanging out with him. This would catch the attention of random drama feeders in the commentary scene, in which Parlo would get into a call and accuse Grimsy of revenge porn with literally no evidence at all.
But I certainly think there's some undertones behind his little self-admission here.
Alright.
Speed 2.5. Alright, I'm gonna play it in 3, 2, 1, here we go.
Critiquing him. So, yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of him, but I do really sympathize with him in this situation. If you guys do really care about this entire situation, I don't suggest sitting here and listening to me and talk about it for 5 minutes. Go watch his video on it, and you'll see a lot of the things I'm talking about. Maybe you guys see it different, but coming from somebody who has been in a really toxic relationship with a vindictive mother, I know all the feelings he's expressing in this video all too well. And before you guys all feel bad for me or something, yeah, I did up shit too, okay? I'm in the same boat as him. He did up shit in this entire situation. I did the same thing when I was with this girl too, so don't feel bad for me and stuff like that. It was a growing moment in my teenage years, and I'm so over it now.
And he made allusions throughout the entire video that he's done up shit, which got him to big trouble at school with this girl, and he would not go into detail about what it was. I'm not going to make any insinuations, but what up shit would you do in a relationship in your young teenage years, which is the same thing all these commentary channels actively preach against? High man stuff.
Oh, leaking nudes.
Yes.
I don't think you.
Grimsy would then make a video basically calling him deluded and crazy for implying this stuff and write him off as a stupid internet spur given just how brain dead this whole beef was.
So he makes a couple of brain dead points here, basically just making shit up about me, like saying, oh yeah, dude, he definitely spread nudes around, whenever it's like, dude, when did I ever say that? I had a toxic relationship when I was 13 years old and was depressed and did dumb shit, okay? But I never shared this girl's nudes. I just said up shit to her.
Parlo would eventually make a video about all this in October on his second channel, Parlo Gaming, doubling down and saying he only sent him one strike to the channel, with the only thing worth a note being him showing all these people he's reported and a suspicious number of those being a bunch of unavailable videos now. No one knows what these videos were, and if anything, this showed just how willing he is to use the report system. And in fact, you can even see he recently reported a couple of videos by somebody named Side Dice, someone who we will also get into soon. Now just forget about the random false claims against Grimsy or how Parlo has a big habit of stretching the truth and lie about anybody he's beefing with to victimize himself. Why the fuck is he still hanging around Nathrix after I exposed him months earlier? After all, this whole Grimsy, Parlo, and Jalen beef was in July 2023, and my Nathrix video came out in January that year, a whole 6 months prior, meaning that Parlo damn well had enough time to learn about this and cut him off. Jalen too, but I digress, this is a Parlo video after all. Well, that's where things get even more interesting here, because just a few months earlier, Parlo would find himself in the worst situation of his career thus far, a situation that he got himself into all on his own accord. Now during all the stuff we just went over in the last chapter, Parlo had actually been on a YouTube hiatus since May 2022 after his father took away the computer for his mental health crashouts and whatever else was going on in the household, and so in this state of boredom, he decided to enact a new plan to make content online. In April 2023, Parlo would start up the Twitter account Cami Fanboy, his new secret online alias where he would post pictures of him in thigh highs and other revealing clothing for attention online. He posted a couple of these days before he turned 18, but once he did on May 2nd, that's when he really ramped everything up here with many thirst trap photos showing off his body for his new audience to appreciate, showing that he planned on keeping the secret account going as he likely enjoyed the attention and compliments he was getting. In fact, were it not for Parlo creating this account, we would never even know what his face looks like, giving his trolls and haters even more ammo to use against him, all because he was making yet more stupid choices online, posting all this publicly for people to witness. Speaking of trolls, it was a troll named XD Gamer who would be the one who revealed all this to the public, a pretty heinous guy who was known to dox and swat people online, with him being responsible for Parlo's dox being posted in October 2022. This would lead to a whole doxing war behind the scenes as Parlo wanted revenge, with him doxing XD Gamer back with the help of his friend SC99, despite, you know, making all these videos exposing people for doing this kind of bad stuff, yet is willing to play the same exact kinds of games against them, but I digress. Oh, but it would turn out that Parlo and SC99 didn't dox XD Gamer. They doxed an unrelated troll named XD Gamer 420 thinking it was XD Gamer under a slightly different name, basically dragging somebody unrelated into their mess in his lust for revenge. The reason I say this is because after doxing the wrong guy, Parlo, SC99, and another friend named Solus will go after Side Dice, the one guy who Parlo was reporting videos on as we saw in his October 2023 Grimsy video, because he was one of the people going around spreading Parlo's dox on the internet back when it came out. They would then get his docs and make images of his Roblox avatar with all his personal info posted to it, with Parlo notably saying he doesn't condone it in a joking manner, but it's pretty easy to read between the lines here and see that he's all for it as he's getting the revenge he wanted against him. Parlo would eventually just go mask off and say he doesn't give a shit what happens to Side Dice, which honestly makes perfect sense given the dude is spreading his docs around, so I ain't gonna fret. But by doxing him back, you come off just as unhinged in the process, and it was clear he was letting his bloodlust control him as it was too late to go back now. He would even change his Twitter bio to say Happy Christmas Side Dice that Christmas 2022 and go on to post another version of his docs online as he was all in on this revenge campaign. Now Side Dice is pretty fucked up himself as he's done things like make AI voice clips of another Roblox YouTuber to say nasty things to falsely label them as a pedo to posting other people's doxes online beyond just Parlo. And it was clear that all this doxing and harassment that goes around was an unfortunately common thing to happen behind the scenes in these Roblox drama circles. Researching all this helped me understand how someone who has little self-control or a huge justice complex such as Parlo here could get caught up in these messes so easily. But seeing he was now willing to play the same exact games as these heinous trolls by doxing them back shows that Parlo doesn't care how far he's willing to go so long as he gets the results he wants, even if it means doing the same exact stuff he's exposed other people for doing in the past, a dangerous mindset to have without a doubt. In fact, it was XD Gamer, the disgusting troll who kicked all this off to begin with, who would reveal an even bigger bombshell than the Camby Fanboy Twitter account. It turns out that Parlo, while still under the Cami Fanboy brand, would end up making a Discord server called Homotopia where people 15 and older would post borderline NSFW images of themselves as well as other degenerate actions involving minors. I'm not lying about that either, as there are multiple thankfully censored images online of minors posting thigh pics in the server, such as the user Pyro who stated he was 15 years old only to go on to post a picture that apparently showed his bulge as he says so himself 10 days later. That's not the only borderline NSFW image that minors are sending in the server, by the way, as there are many more to be seen, showing that the place was a degenerate hellhole where kids were getting primed into getting groomed by an adult one day given the setup going on here. Now, when XD Gamer exposed all this info to the public, the server itself wasn't actually archived and would get deleted shortly after, only existing for about 2 weeks total with only a handful of screenshots surviving, and people would even see that Parlo had 0 messages sent when checking his account activity despite being the owner. However, prior messages indicate he had a habit of nuking his messages, making things even that messier in the process. It somehow manages to get worse here, as it would turn out that none other than the aforementioned Roblox pedophile and friend of Parlo's Nathrix was a moderator in the server during its short run online, with the implications of a predator being around actual children primed for grooming, all orchestrated by Parlo, being just that gross to think about. And of course, in typical Predator fashion, Nathrix would be seen posting a picture wearing panties for all the children to witness, showing just how depraved this entire hellhole going on truly is. You can even see the Jasper person at the bottom saying they recognize the name, showing just how close things were to blowing up in their faces already, with Parlo giving one of the most heinous trolls an easy dub because of his sheer stupidity making this place to begin with. Now, this news will make its way around Parlo circles, as it's pretty fucking insane seeing all this drop on the timeline, and so Parlo would make a 24-page document defending himself in the process. However, this document is so straight up stupid to read, such as how Parlo got a Homotopia member named Connor to testify the server didn't send NSFW material while posting what is basically NSFW material, literally as is evidence for that, as you can see right there on your screen. In fact, at one point, another member would admit somebody named Day made an NSFW channel, but it only lasted an hour. But in the very screenshot Parlo uses as an example to prove nothing NSFW went down, he himself would write in that red text and box on screen that Day is a pedophile, quite literally proving his detractors right that the server he made was already harboring people wanting to prey on children outside of just Nathrix here. Parlo also gets Pyro to testify that the messages he nuked were just venting and nothing weird he was saying himself, and given all his messages are deleted, we'll just have to take his word on it. I mean, Pyro literally says he saw no inappropriate images of minors in the server despite literally being one of the very minors posting an inappropriate image himself, meaning that this 15-year-old kid just didn't know any better and didn't know the kinds of bad shit he was participating in, and Parlo was using his ignorance to twist and manipulate the narrative in his favor to get himself out of trouble. Parlo even goes on to straight up defend Nathrix and say people calling him a pedophile is a lie, when my video and many others talking about him prove otherwise, showing that he was willing to die in a hill to protect him for whatever the reason may have been. I mean, he literally uses testimony from Nathrix under his Bloxatron alias that the server was not NSFW, but this is literally Nathrix speaking, so none of what he says matters. Now, this news, despite it coming out in May 2023, wouldn't really make the rounds initially, mainly due to just how no one except trolls and his haters kept up with Parlo outside his YouTube channel. And also because Parlo just turned 18 not even 3 weeks ago, and so some people wrote it off as a kid who didn't know any better. However, by fall 2023, a couple months later, it would start to affect his reputation on YouTube as more and more people learned of it, and so he would upload an hour and 40-minute video titled My Response, debunking the Homotopia allegations on November 12, 2023, in which he uses the runtime to give his YouTube audience an explanation as to what is going on. He opens up and goes into detail on the many heinous things that XD Gamer, XD Gamer 420, and Sidice would do, such as doxing, swatting, and even alleged CP, showing that yeah, those guys are fucking insane in their own right. Parlo then gets into the Homotopia stuff, but it's mainly just his document but in video form, and in expected fashion he plays semantics and pedantics by saying how the server rules say they follow Discord TOS, which says to not post sexually explicit content to people under 18, yet fails to actually show what the images being sent in the server were if they were supposedly not NSFW at all. He's obviously just being nitpicky about this because while the minor had clothes on when they posted the pics, they were still sexual in nature, but because he says they weren't explicit that they were following Discord TOS, so people saying otherwise are lying. When in reality, it's up to debate, and this is clearly him just trying to build a benefit of the doubt in his favor. This benefit of the doubt continues on as Parlo would go on to say that Pyro, that 15-year-old kid who sent what he himself said was a picture containing his bulge, was actually just one of many images of him sending what he says are gym progress pics, with Pyro even giving some more context to what the image actually showed.
XD Gamer tries to push the motive that Pyro's abdominal progress pictures were inappropriate when he literally does exercise progress pictures because he goes to the gym a lot. I mean, this is the extent of lying that XD Gamer subjects people to in order to try and control the narrative. And this is followed by another screenshot of Pyro stating, the image XD Gamer always likes to bring up was a standard thigh picture which he couldn't get to look good from any angle except one that included the bulge. However, he naturally censored it by covering the entire region with his hands, and that the bulge wasn't even there in the original picture. So there was absolutely nothing in the image that made it bad whatsoever, and Pyro literally claims, no.
It's seeds of doubt like this that give Parlo leverage, and he knows it, because a lot of his video hinges on these attempts at giving the benefits of the doubt. At one point, he just straight up lies and says he's not a fully grown adult as well, which is just bizarre given it was pretty clear he was 18 now.
Parlo is a fully grown adult. No, I'm not.
I have no idea why he will lie about something so easy to disprove, but that just shows you how willing he is to feign any responsibility for what Homotopia ended up turning into. He even plays testimony that Nathrix recorded for this video, with him even saying all those suggestive images of minors are just workout pictures, further showing that this exercise excuse was the best thing they could come up with to get the heat off Parlo.
I was given no actual introduction to the server, but when I joined I saw flirtatious chat messages and selfies people were taking, with some of it being people posting their workout progress pictures whilst working towards a femboy body.
Parlo then goes on to defend Nathrix because the police somehow found nothing illegal in his possession, despite the internet having well more than enough proof he's a freak, basically just not willing to admit that keeping him as a friend is stupid to do, before meandering on and again just basically making his 24-page document in video form. However, despite being able to successfully skew the narrative in his favor at the time, people seeing him continue to defend Nathrix stuck out the most as he was faced controversy for that, and so a month later on December 10th he would upload a new video talking about this, and in this case, finally get more into his associations with Nathrix. In said video, he would admit he was foolish for keeping him around as a friend and that he's never changed to better himself, showing him finally admitting to fault for something once.
There is only so many times that Natty Forsyth can pull the excuse that she didn't know the ages until there's an evident pattern of degeneracy there. I was extremely foolish to believe that she had originally learnt from her past mistakes, and for that I take accountability in incorrectly trusting her with moderation perms of the server, because at the time I didn't fully understand the full grasp of her actions.
However, interestingly enough, Parlo would say that the moment XD Gamer revealed what Nathrix did to the public that he got into a call with him and another friend named Hawks and yelled at him, implying that he knew what he did was gross and disgusting, and even admits friends have told him in the past keeping in contact with him is a bad idea.
I immediately got in a call with my friend Hawks and confronted Natty Forsyth about it as well, and here is a testimony from Hawks regarding this situation. Can you attest that after I found out what Nat had done that I went off at her in a private VC with me, you, and her?
Yes, you did, and you were very angry about it. Definitely didn't agree with what she did. You definitely thought that her posting it was completely inappropriate, unacceptable, and morally wrong.
It doesn't matter much now though, because his fanbase now saw him cut him off for good, and so everyone would move on as the situation died down for the most part from then onwards. I feel I have to point this out as we wrap this chapter up, but all the trolls mentioned are all very bad people in their own right. None of this is an attempt to defend them for the things they've done, it's to simply show that Parlo is willing to dox them right back and stoop down to their levels in the process as he let his rage fuel him, showing that he can be just as dangerous as them if someone crosses him one day. With that being said, the reason why the Homotopia stuff never made any waves outside his community was because he was able to successfully manipulate the narrative in his favor that he was just a recent 18-year-old who didn't know any better and didn't know how bad the server he made was shaping up to be due to his ignorance. It's also worth pointing out that by August 2025, Parlo had officially cut ties with Nathrix once and for all, now saying that he was groomed by him, showing that hey, at least he finally got smart enough to end things off and understand that dude is a massive fucking freak. In April 2025, Parlo would announce that he was working on a video exposing Parasitical and that he lied in his response to the grooming allegations back in 2020, as well as talk about how back when he was 18 he dated a 14-year-old French girl and was waiting till she was legal to engage in anything sexual with her. That French girl stuff is already pretty known to most people who keep up with these things, but when Parlo sees red, he immediately goes all in to fuel his ego and justice complex. But in the process, this would piss off a couple Parasitical fans, and in turn one of them would drop a bombshell bigger than anything we've covered thus far. On April 20th, 2025, a Reddit user would drop a couple links showing that at the age of 19, Parlo was caught dating a 12-year-old boy named Duped with a video recording of all their DMs. Trust me, I would love to show y'all the nitty gritty for the sake of telling the story as truthfully as I can, but the kinds of things that Parlo was talking about with this kid was so absolutely disgusting I can only show y'all small snippets here. It was beyond deplorable. It was the stuff of nightmares seeing a 19-year-old talk this kind of way with a 12-year-old, and it was clear this would be the catalyst for Parlo's downfall once it started to make the rounds online. In fact, the situation would blow up so quickly that Parlo will end up making a response video titled The Truth just 8 days later on the 28th, in which he not only reveals that it was Dupe himself who made the Reddit post, he was able to prove that he was under the belief Dupe was 17 at the time they were speaking together.
Because what Dupe negates to mention in his Reddit callout post he made was the fact that he lied about his age to me and everyone else on numerous occasions for over an entire year. You see, when I had first met Dupe in late 2023, he had always affirmed to me that he was 16 years of age. At this time, I would have been 18, making our age gap 1 year 11 months. Dupe always claimed to have been born on April the 10th, 2007, while I was born on May the 2nd, 2005. I'd like to clarify that the age of consent in the UK is 16, meaning that the age gap was not illegal, and a less than 2-year age gap is certainly not in the slightest. I'd also like to clarify that I asked for his age several times to make sure of it, and we only dated for a few weeks online as of mid-2024, when Dupe claimed to have been 17 and I would have been 19. We did not meet up.
On May 4th, just a week later, somebody named 77 would make a document exposing Parlo for a lot of the nasty things he's done on the internet. It would of course contain a deep dive into the Dupe situation currently going on, in which 77 points out some other highlights people missed at the time, such as Parlo threatening to dox someone after they pissed him off, and also show that he was emotionally manipulating Dupe by threatening to cut himself and show them off in their DMs together. He would even show that Parlo was planning to meet up with Dupe in Liverpool to do the deed as it implies in their messages, and would even show that on one of the many Discord accounts Parlo used to speak to Dupe that he purged all their DMs, meaning that he knew whatever was said in there was bad and could be used against him in the future. 77 even points out that despite people knowing that Dupe lied about his age being 16 and 17, it doesn't take away from the manipulative things Parlo was doing in their DMs together, and that it was his responsibility to get his real age before engaging further in these conversations, as he was the big YouTuber here. Also, just to point this out before we move on, Parlo is not a pedophile because Dupe lied about his age. I know some people are saying he is, but yeah, just wanted to make that clear. In fact, 77 would reveal as soon as Parlo found out he was making a document that he would add him on Discord immediately, in which he says some very interesting things, such as that Solus, one of the guys part of Doxin XD Gamer, had now apparently worked with him despite it being working with the dude himself as we saw earlier, meaning Parlo was trying to drag some other people into this mess. Despite claiming that he cut off Dupe after finding out he lied about his age and exposed their DMs, Parlo lied himself about cutting him off as on May 4th, under an alt account named Wembelise as well as his main Parlo, and a friend named Mugen would add Dupe to a Discord group chat in order to belittle and berate him for leaking all this information to the public. Dupe would add 77 as backup given these were grown men intimidating a 13-year-old, but they would continuously kick him out knowing he was their biggest op at the time as he was compiling all the nasty things Parlo and his friends had been doing. Just like his friend Guamgo, who was also seen in the group chat taking an out-of-context edgy joke that Dupe made and tried to use it against him. Oh, but when Parlo does the same edgy joke himself, he doesn't seem to have an issue, but I digress. Guamgo seemed interested as far as police papers being served Dupe's way for getting Parlo into this mess, showing that even he's starting to get directly involved beyond just being another YouTuber Parlo is friends with. It's pretty pathetic seeing 3 grown men belittle and bully a 13-year-old online like this, and it was clear this was a coordinated effort to gaslight and intimidate Dupe into submission by means of heavy accusations and potential police involvement, but 77 was not letting this stay behind the scenes as he compiled all this in a second document for people to see. On July 17th, Parlo would drop another video going over the Dupe stuff titled My Side, with something worth noting that he admitted he thought Dupe was 16 when he was 18 was because of a fake Doxbin post that was found out later Dupe created himself to convince people he was older. Parlo even shows a message he got from Dupe admitting to manipulating him, which while technically is true, who knows the amount of intimidation it took to get that out of him. But it seemed that Parlo was now in the clear with his audience as to him. This admission means everything was over. But to his detractors, it still didn't take away from the emotional manipulation he put Dupe through, and one of those detractors had a plan up his sleeve to take things to the next level. Now by August 2025, while Parlo claimed he went to the police over the Dupe situation and some other random online stalkers he was dealing with, 77 and many other people are still spreading this news about Parlo around the internet, with Kiwi Farms even getting involved and being one of the many sources compiling everything about the dude as we've seen so far. However, the police indeed would get involved one day, but not in the way Parlo was expecting. On September 11th, 2025, the UK police will show up to his house and detain Parlo for 12 hours in a holding cell as he was talking to Guamgo on Discord. It turns out that a detractor of his named Natspop would forward 77's document to the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command to get him arrested, in which it obviously ended up happening. It also turns out that Natspop omitted the fact Parlo was lied about Dupe's age when he made this report, however, meaning this whole situation was built off false information, and Parlo was now extremely pissed off given he thought this was all behind him. Guamgo would end up making a video about everything, in which Parlo would reveal that he was getting mass reported by trolls and received 2 channel strikes just a day prior, showing he now even had more on his plate to deal with. He would end up privating all his videos on his channel on October 2nd just to be safe, and so with this all going down now, the news would catch the attention of more people online as it was spreading around rapidly in smaller internet circles. On October 18th, 2025, Parlo will upload a video titled Goodbye, in which he explains why he had to private all his videos and says that he'll be uploading to his second channel, Parlo Gaming, from now on. However, what's more interesting is that he would promote a GoFundMe he made back on September 28th for people to help pay for, quote, expense, food, rent, and other amenities in this horrible period of time, also with potential funds for further action I may take. It seemed that Parlo was having a rough time financially given how his job was now at risk. He would get a total of 560 euros during its time online. However, it was this very GoFundMe that will lead to his downfall and everyone learning about all the stuff we've gone over so far, and the story surrounding that is surprisingly and thankfully easy to explain compared to everything else we've gone over thus far. Say hello to Internet Adjacent, better known as Wolfgang, a small commentary YouTuber who made videos discussing various happenings online as is per usual for the genre. He had made a couple of videos defending Parlo in the past about some of the stuff we've already covered, and while they were not good all things considered, they were his interpretation and opinions on the matter, so it was nothing worth of note at the time. I say at the time because on November 9th, 2025, Wolfgang would release a document titled My Relationship with Parlo, in which he goes into detail on a trip he took to London to meet up with him so they could fuck. This means that all those videos he made defending him weren't because he just had bad opinions, he was on the good side of Parlo and so defended somebody he had feelings for and made himself look like an ass in the process. However, no one really cares about that, because the information that Wolfgang shares with him is some pretty insane stuff, such as how they had been planning this trip back in summer and it would be through October 11th through the 15th, and a couple more DMs just before heading off to London. However, he reveals that Parlo, despite making a GoFundMe back on September 28th for what he said were financial issues, clearly wasn't having any at all as he paid just under 8,000 euros for Wolfgang's flight ticket. He even reveals that Parlo also recently bought a $1,000 gaming laptop as well, meaning that Parlo wasn't suffering for money, he had plenty to go around and was scamming his fans for any money he could get his hands on. Soon after this document dropped, Parlo dropped his own document on Wolfgang, and to make a long story short, it turns out they had awkward relations together during the trip, and so Parlo made this document to expose him for sexual coercion, assault, and other things that went down at the Airbnb they got together were he to ever talk about this publicly. Now, given this is mainly a he said situation, I won't be going into crazy detail on things we have no proof of as it would be a waste of time. I'll only be going over the hard evidence, such as that when going back to Wolfgang's document for a second where he shows Parlo saying he hadn't eaten in 32 hours, meaning that he was clearly interested in him at the time. The list of those things was in Parlo's document, like how Wolfgang was just a really awkward and weird guy after meeting him in real life, and that he had personal hygiene issues, and also that he wasn't respecting boundaries by seeming to constantly try to coerce him into sex whenever possible. It also didn't help that he would send a picture of them kissing together without his permission, which while this kind of stuff happens all the time in real life, it's like a 2 out of 10 dick move where it's like you probably shouldn't have done that, but whatever, this is just kind of pointless to bring up. Parlo also shows that Wolfgang had a habit of sending furry porn out of the blue to him and other people he knew without their permission, which is pretty weird, but most interestingly reveals that he secretly recorded him on their last day hanging out together after he screwed it all up, with the recording being secret obviously because he planned to use it against him in the future. I won't be playing it, but it contains Parlo saying he felt pressured but was afraid to say no because he thought Wolfgang would get mad at him, with Wolfgang saying he wouldn't have and would have respected his boundaries if he knew Parlo was uncomfortable and apologizing for screwing things up between him and another friend they were hanging out with. Now honestly, this whole situation didn't need to be made public because no one really cares about 2 random people's awkward sexual experiences unless you're like 12, but the reason this all came out to begin with was a small story in of itself. You see, Wolfgang was telling all these random small commentary people about what happened and what to do, in which Parlo caught wind of it, and so they had an argument about keeping things between them only for both their sakes, but they would of course secretly make documents on each other if push came to shove. However, one of those small commentary people named Himpleton was bored and wanted content on his channel, so he would basically lie to Wolfgang by implying that Parlo was planning to release his document soon, knowing that wasn't the case, in which Wolfgang would of course release his, thinking Parlo was planning to do it himself, not knowing this other dude just played him so he could get drama to cover on his channel. I know, it's some deranged shit, but Hambleton wouldn't be able to capitalize as high as he planned, as another random small commentary person named Dickers would manage to get the two on stream together for his own set of content for the night. Now the stream is going over all the sexual coercion and assault claims, which again is more of a he said kind of situation, so I won't be getting into that, but there are some interesting parts, such as it coming out that Wolfgang and another friend had a sort of play fight in the middle of Hyde Park together, and that it made him look like a complete and utter weirdo and was one of the many turnoffs for Parlo. Wolfgang would also try to deny coercing him at one point, except in leaked DMs he would end up deleting the very message that implies as such when talking to a friend, meaning he was being pushy with Parlo at the very least and he knew it made him look bad, hence why he deleted the message. However, besides all that, there was just one little side plot to this story that would matter much more than anything else here. You see, we learned that Parlo lied about being in financial straits because he paid for Wolfgang to fly over to London for gay sex and that he was scamming his fans with a GoFundMe. This is the part of the story that would make its way to the mainstream, as somebody named Alex Tanuki, one of Parlo's many rivals online, would make a Twitter post that went viral showing all this off for people to see. Parlo would then try to play semantics and pedantics by stating how the money from the GoFundMe was transferred after the plane ticket was bought and how that technically isn't fraud, but he knows people actually care that he got his fans to give him money under false pretenses and is obfuscating the situation by bringing up an irrelevant point to try and somehow get a win here. Like, Parlo would try really hard to somehow twist things and make Tanuki look like a bad guy for exposing all this, saying how she's weaponizing his sexual assault somehow, and then lies saying that he's not a kid scammer when he literally just got exposed for scamming his kid audience. He even tries to go on the offensive and defensive at the same time by trying to paint her in a bad light by making a soft joke in a Twitter space title about what was going on, showing that he was not going to give up on somehow finding something to make this person look bad now that they made it known to the wider public he scammed people. In his absolute rage trying to defend himself whilst going after Tanuki, he would reveal the laptop he bought was because when the police arrested him they confiscated his electronics, and also that it was 1,611 euros, meaning that it was much more than Wolfgang said earlier and only made him look even worse in the process. This meltdown was pretty fucking deranged, and Parlo, seeing that he was cornered and had nothing left to lose, would then reveal he's been homeless since Halloween yet is buying someone a plane ticket and an expensive laptop, further showing his complete lack of financial literacy and his willingness to use his audience to get him out of what he brought upon himself. However, after coming to his senses, Parlo would announce he was planning to refund all donors to the GoFundMe after seeing this was the only way to try and salvage his career, and on the 11th he would officially do so, with people getting their money back thankfully. He of course continued to say he definitely didn't scam anyone despite this being untrue, showing just how willing he is to lie to get to the outcome he wants even when the evidence is stacked against him, but I digress, as after all, he gave people their money back and now just had to deal with finding some place to live at with his expensive laptop soon. Well, it wouldn't be over for him as Guamgo, his good old friend who helped skew the Dupe situation in his favor and somebody who's been up in his own shit, would have his own experiences with Parlo relating to all this, and seeing he was now the hot topic of the Roblox scene, would make his own video on November 12th and reveal a whole bunch more about what was going on. He reveals that Parlo was trying to get him to make a video on Wolfgang on November 3rd, a whole 6 days before he was manipulated into releasing his document, meaning that Parlo wasn't waiting for Wolfgang to drop his document first. He was trying to get Guamgo to cover things first by proxy. Guamgo would tell people he knew turning their situation into drama was stupid after Wolfgang dropped his document and he read it, but Parlo would snap and start to insult him in his state of mania, showing that he was completely losing his mind a friend would dare disagree with how to handle things. He even says his life is worse than other Roblox creators like Ruben Schlepp, showing that he just wanted pure revenge on Wolfgang and going to Guamgo was just another way of trying to get that to happen. Guamgo even brings up other stuff we hadn't gone over, such as how Wolfgang had a friend who was 17 and once he turned 18 he started to get sexual with him despite being 21 himself, yet points out how Parlo never had an issue with this despite knowing this until he had his own bad relations with the man, even planning a threesome together with that very person Wolfgang hovered over, that third guy who was at the Airbnb with him. Guamgo would confront Parlo about why all of this is going on to begin with, in which he and his video editor Dial would get into a call with them together only for Parlo to insult him.
Once Dial and I explained to Parlo what we thought about this document of his, Parlo completely lost it. He started calling us stupid, slow, and said that nobody would understand what he was going through. I told him straight up that nobody's going to take you seriously once this gets out. He kept spiraling, saying that he was the biggest victim, worse off than Ruben, Schlepp, or even me, and it was just a full-on meltdown. Dial, my editor, was there for it all. Parlo rage quit the call, and that's when it hit me. He'd completely lost control.
Yup, even his good friend knew he was far too gone, and so after the Dickers livestream, he would cut him off completely to save his own reputation and of course make this video for the wider Roblox community to see. With the Roblox community now seeing that Parlo is a manipulative scammer, his Discord server would turn on him as the clock ticked closer and closer to midnight, as there was nothing he could do now. Except, Parlo had one tool remaining at his disposal, his knack for manipulation and obfuscation, and so in his bright mind, he decided to hold a Discord stage call where people could listen to him try to defend himself one last time. The 3-hour call is full of him trying to justify himself to no avail, and many highlights such as Parlo calling himself retarded and continuing to try and play victim, but interestingly enough, he reveals his own father said that with the charges he's currently facing after getting arrested 2 months ago, if he ends up going to prison, he'll basically be killed as the inmates wouldn't like the kinds of things he did to end up there to begin with, and also saying that he has a meeting with the police on December 9th.
You're going to get beaten, set on fire in prison because the charges that they levied against you, even if they're fake, it will be like a red target on your back. So I was shit scared that my entire life and entire normalcy that I had up until now would be completely and irrevocably changed. We all planned that we were going to meet up in December, but it was mid-December, and this was after I have to go back to the station, which is on December the 9th.
The fact he's worried about the meetup is so weird to think about. I'm not really going to get into it, but there's still a little bit more to check out in the call, such as how he assumed people would just move on from everything were the situation ever make it to the public.
Serve its purpose in pushing back his narrative, and that after 1 or 2 days, people would just kind of move on, coming to terms with the fact that at best, there's
So
like...
what exactly gave you the impression that people would just quickly move on?
Because in a case like this, I gave devil's advocate to internet adjacent and assumed that perhaps he was autistic and didn't pick up on body language, or like when someone wasn't clearly reciprocating, which is true. He's getting an autism diagnosis pretty soon, so we'll get to that. But I assumed that it would be dealt with in a live stream and that people would quickly move on to the next thing, because I only thought it would stay in the small commentary bubble.
For a good moment, he and Guamgo would debate on whether Parlo was a scammer, as he was adamant he wasn't, despite literally everybody else knowing he was, as it was clear he was just being delusional. And then Alex Tanuki from earlier would come in to get mad at him and call him a bunch of names. Now this is where things get batshit crazy, as Mugen, one of the guys who was part of the group chat that berated Dupe, would go on to lock Parlo out of his own YouTube channel after the stage ended. It turns out that Parlo had given him manager access to his channel in the past before, hence why he was able to do this, and Mugen would say he was doing this to kick him off the internet for good given how insane he's shown himself to be. I just want to remind you, this only has to do with the Wolfgang and GoFundMe stuff. Nothing else mentioned in this video was known to the wider public yet, and if you ask me, it's pretty insane. In fact, Mugen would be seen commenting on a random video calling somebody handsome, with Guamgo chiming in on a joke as he was clearly in a know as to what was going on. Parlo would confirm he wasn't able to get him off manager access because the police seized his devices, so he couldn't use two-factor authentication to get in, meaning he was now at the mercy of Mugen. On November 17th, 2025, Mugen would delete every single video off Parlo's channel, and even though they were all privated by this point, it was clear that he was actively trying to do something here. He would succeed in doing so, as later that same day, Mugen would upload porn to his channel and have his friends mass report the uploads, in which the Parlo YouTube channel was officially banned off the site for good. Parlo would try to get the attention of YouTube themselves on Twitter, but because he willingly gave Mugen channel manager, there was nothing they could do, meaning that the era of Parlo's YouTube channel was officially over. However, the only thing that people were wondering was how exactly did the channel get deleted for posting porn, as not a single person saw any uploads pop up during this time period. Guamgo would answer that question in his follow-up video, Parlo is actually gone, in which he reveals that Mugen decided for the sake of his mental health and family that he should be deplatformed, in which he uploaded these videos unlisted and sent them to friends to report, hence why no one publicly saw these uploads.
This wasn't some evil mastermind moment where Mugen suddenly hacked into Parlo's channel to destroy him. Mugen had already had access for months. Parlo gave him that access, and what he did wasn't done out of malice. It was done out of desperation. He uploaded that video privately on an unlisted upload that only he saw because he genuinely thought forcing the channel offline was the only way to get Parlo to leave YouTube before it completely destroyed his mental health.
Alongside this video, he would reveal that Parlo sent him the script he was working on for his response video, in which we'll go over it together here to see what exactly he was planning to say. Now the beginning is explaining the Wolfgang stuff and how he shouldn't have gotten into explicit detail on their relationship together given he has a minor audience, in which he does for the most part take accountability for. However, when we get to the GoFundMe part, Parlo again tries his hardest to downplay it by saying he planned to use the money made on food and housing only, but given he had money prior, hence buying Wolfgang his plane ticket and a new laptop, this point is moot as his actions outweigh his intentions, and he can't claim accountability without representing the actions for what they truly are, a scam whether intentional or not. I would recommend pausing the video to read the whole section on screen out for better clarity, because you can see Parlo trying to defend himself while still saying he's taking accountability, but the only way to do that is to admit defeat full stop, something that Parlo is very much not able to do easily, as he's shown again and again throughout his career that an important factor to any drama he becomes a part of is that he needs to be the winner of the beef. He does say at the end he planned to leave and work on himself to become a better person and imply that he was going to come back to the internet one day, but given Mugen got his channel nuked, that was now all up in the air. Now, after seeing that Mugen nuked Parlo's channel, there was one thing that was majorly bugging me about this. It's the fact that there was no need for this action because Parlo had no access to his channel since the police took all his electronics, something that Mugen obviously knew about. He also says he did it for the betterment of his mental health, yet by doing this he ironically enough made his mental health worse, and so now people are using a clip of Parlo emotionally ranting on Dicker's livestream about how people have blood on their hands to make him look bad. However, I understand why he was acting emotional here, so I'm not gonna get mad at him for saying a bunch of sus stuff because anybody would do that. It's just that he went on a YouTube channel livestream because he has no control of his actions. Maybe that's just the human side of me coming out here, I don't know, but either way, Parlo's channel is now officially gone off the platform, but there's just one more thing we gotta cover before we move on here. In January 2025, Roblox YouTuber Parlo would get exposed for having sexual relations with a 12-year-old when he was 16, as he would admit so himself in leaked Discord messages. He's a massive fucking weirdo and doesn't deserve any platform making Roblox kids content anymore, and Parlo would agree with that as he was one of many people who would make videos exposing this news to the public. However, he wanted to do more than just spread the news around. He wanted to get involved directly in his downfall, and in turn would recruit some of the most heinous people on the internet in the process. You see, starting back in 2024, Parlo made a series of videos going over a troll group called the UTTP, best known for spamming gore and CP on Roblox YouTubers' Discord servers as well as swatting and doxing. In one of those videos, Parlo specifically talks about a member named Defender and how he's part of the quote-unquote good side of the UTTP because he doesn't spam CP like other members, despite, you know, being part of an operation where he got fans of the internet show Murder Drones to cut their arms up for his own sick amusement, something that Parlo knows about because he literally talked about it in one of his videos.
Now this brings me to a member called Defender, who is a commander and a high-ranking UTTP member in their current Discord server. Now this is someone who I've covered before in older videos, primarily because he possessed and distributed images of people who he apparently got to cut themselves and self-harm.
Parlo was somebody who was covering the nasty things this group does, and so one would assume that he would never dare keep in contact with any of the members. Well, that's where things get interesting here, because Parlo will end up working with Defender in February 2025 to try and find Podamer's docs information together. In a leaked group chat between Parlo, Defender, and another person named Anti-Troll, Parlo would be seen making crude jokes about Podamer as it compiled any information it could find about him, which while yes, Podamer is a disgusting person, working with a member of a group that has done worse makes him look like a complete and utter psychopath. Defender would even reveal he knew nothing of the Podamer stuff until Parlo came to him with the information, and that he's also in contact with an IRL friend of Podamer's, meaning that Parlo was using that friend to give as much personal information as possible so that he and Defender could get Podamer's docs. This would eventually culminate in the UTTP swatting Podamer and Podamer implying he sent a lawsuit Parlo's way in July that year, given he was one of the many people partially responsible for the docs being created, as he would reveal so in a video uploaded to his channel.
Homotopia is now seen attempting to throw legal threats of suing me due to leaked clips of me and Defender which were released.
If you notice, Podamer's threat to sue was posted on July 5th, and so as people started to put together that Parlo was working with a UTTP member, he knew that it would make him look very bad given he exposed them a year prior for all the nasty things they do, yet doesn't seem to actually care so long as they're useful to him. So, Parlo will hop on the livestream of close friend Guamgo the next day on the 6th and reveal that Defender is actually an FBI informant who was working against the UTTP this entire time.
And it's really funny. I'm going to drop a bombshell right now. The guy whose name is the opposite of offender, he is an FBI informant who has been making FBI reports against high-ranking UTTP members. Under no circumstances ever was I under any belief that that person was an open Didiablad. The person who, I'm going to repeat it again, the person who everyone is claiming that I'm friends with the UTTP, it is based on a lie. they made FBI reports. So you can get it and shove it up where the sun don't
Yep, Cena had no way out of this one. He would then go on to say that Defender was actually a good guy this whole time to get heat off his back, showing just how stupid he is, as he likely screwed up any chance of Potamer actually facing proper justice, as once shit like this starts happening, it makes the police's job infinitely harder to complete. Now there's some more ironic things going on with Parlo's involvement with the UTTP, such as how back when he, Guamgo, and Mugen were harassing Dupe, he would try to implicate him as a bad person, say he worked with them despite literally doing the same himself just 2 months prior, which is pretty fucking rich to read if you ask me. Even in that Discord space he held after he got exposed for scamming his fans, Parlo blames the UTTP, Kiwi Farms, and Soyjack party for why Potamer got doxxed, despite him literally being directly involved in the dox being made to begin with.
Oh, they're bringing up like the doxing of Potamer, which was caused by Soyjack Party, Kiwi Farms, and also UTTP.
Obviously, nobody pushed against this at the time because it wasn't widely known yet, but the audacity to continue to lie instead of just accept responsibility for his actions is utterly deranged to witness. Now, I would become aware of all this while researching Parlo and realize that no one actually knew about his ties to the UTTP yet and only about scamming his fans. I was also taking a break from work that day and playing some Deadlock when I just so happened to see if Dickers was streaming, given that Parlo's story was still going on, and it just so happened that Parlo was on stream talking about none other than the Potamer situation. Given he was likely to dip from the internet soon, given his channel was now deleted, I knew it was now or never to get some answers here, and so I would join the stream to question him on his involvement working with the UTTP to dox Potamer. Our conversation was about 15 minutes long, and to sum it up, Parlo was basically telling me that he had no idea Defender would give this information to other UTTP members and that he himself was participating in all this because he wanted to send in a police report about Potamer's actions. I kept asking him why he would do this because he knows of the bad things that Defender did yet still worked with him, and he tries to say that Defender is a complicated story because he's reported UTTP members to the FBI before yet is unpredictable, also saying that he himself doesn't have the skills to gather personal info on people, hence why he decided to work with them to begin with. However, I could tell the way he was talking that he was trying to give an answer that made him look as favorable as possible, with a lot of it grasping onto the implication that he's just a really stupid person for working with this guy and had no idea this info would be used to swat Potamer. I don't want to play the full call because it would stretch things out too much and absolutely kill the pacing of this video, but you can go find the full section on Dicker's channel when you get the chance, so I'll just play what I believe is the most important section of that chat together.
But you were getting this information and you were sharing it with people who were in the UTTP, associated with an organization that you know had a predisposition to share this stuff around, right? To be able to disseminate
with Defender,
this.
it's really difficult to explain. The way I first came in contact with him was when he would consistently share information to me that I hate the UTTP, I hate where it's gone to, there's so many pedophiles and gore posters and freaks, I want to work in any way to get these people, fuck them over, because I want them out. Then he would consistently share information about like where the UTTP would raid, showing proof that he reported them, giving me information to then put in videos and stuff like that, telling me that the FBI is like looking at my videos and stuff, because they have. There's been reports where like one of the agents have said my videos have been used as like evidence to go after someone and shit like that. That's why there were so many videos, because like it would each archived a different instance of them like raiding someone and shit like that. But most of these screenshots would be supplied to me from Defender. He would behind the scenes like get like really hard to retrieve screenshots, give them to me. I'd put them in a video and it would like fuck over General Glenn and shit like that.
So what you're saying is that this guy used to work with the UTTP and is now helping you to kind of expose some of the stuff behind the scenes?
Yeah,
right?
he was seen as like a
stopped
very
doing this
valuable
stuff.
asset for two things. He was really good with operational security, and he was at the very highest echelons of like the thing, but he was leaking everything. And because it was such like, because the UTTP was
or I
such
guess like what, like a double agent?
Yeah,
for
because the UTTP
for
was
you.
like so hard to like gain trust into, and because it was like such a mysterious organization that like everyone was shitting bricks over. No one would talk about it. I mean, Moist Critical didn't want to touch the thing with a 10-foot pole, but no one wanted to touch it, and he was the only one who was willing to like share information and try and fuck over the people at the top.
But would he also disseminate people's doxes? As I guess what Lanza is probably wondering. Did you think that the likelihood when you were sharing information with him that he would then go and share it with other people publicly?
Yeah, he was an absolute wild card. The problem with him was that his morals were so fucking all over the place. He would have this ardent anti-pedophile kind of motto, but then he would just go around doing like reckless, impulsive shit.
Yeah, basically Parlo swears he had no idea any of this information would be used to swat Potimer, and defends his association with Defender by saying how he's done good things before yet has also done bad as well. Now, do I believe what Parlo is trying to say? Well, I think he was partially telling the truth here. I think what happened is that he was understandably seeking justice against Potimer, and so went to the one guy who he knew had the skills to gather personal info to use for a police report, but the one guy wasn't interested in working with the police and instead just wanted to fuck with them for his own sick kicks. Parlo, seeing what happened and now knowing that he's partially responsible for what happened to Potimer, has since been spinning the story he was just naive and ignorant to get heat off his back, but he knew the risks going on here because he made videos exposing this guy before. Some of y'all may have noticed I also mentioned how Guamgo was a part of that group chat, because he was. Though he since said he too was under the impression this was to send in a police report just like Parlo in a past YouTube video.
In either March or April after the Potimer Fall incident, when we found out he and his associates had begun swatting Potimer, that completely sabotaged the legal process we were working towards, and at that point, we wanted nothing to do with him.
It's clear there's more going on with Guamgo here, but I don't care to get into that because this is a Parlo video and not a Guamgo one, but I figured to mention this before we move on. The story just seems to keep meandering on too, as Parlo would make an appearance on the YouTube channel Cope and Seethe on December 2nd when that guy was just first learning about all the allegations against him. The most interesting part in my opinion is when they go over the claims Parlo made that Wolfgang is a groomer, in which Parlo says he never said it verbatim despite very heavily implying it in his document he made on the dude and in other random conversations online. What's so fascinating is that Parlo either doesn't seem to understand the implication he made by including this info in the way it was carefully written, or his ego won't let him see the implication he's making as he's completely lost in his head.
That he completely on his own whim decides to act inappropriately without understanding the ramifications of his actions. Again, did not call him a pedophile because this is giving him leeway right now.
But hold on, but you did just call him predatory. You said this was predatory. And again, you came into this call.
Give me the quotation.
I think it might be. Hold on, Jerry. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but you came into this call with, here are all these screenshots of internet adjacent having sexual conversations with minors in his Discord. That's your opening gambit when you entered this call. So, again, you may not be using the word pedophile or groomer, but you're sat there going, well, with me and Avalon, it's a much smaller age gap, but with internet adjacent, it's 3.5 years. You may not be saying the words, but the implication of the accusation is a grooming accusation. That's obviously a grooming accusation. That's obviously a predator accusation.
That's not... So you said that I said predatory, but there's no quotation or timestamp provided. In reference to the Discord situation, I stated that he was engaging with a 16-year-old in the topic of OnlyFans comments. Again, never once called him predatory for that. And then I was cut off during the age gap segment when I was talking about what he did, because members of your chat were conflating a 2-year age gap with pedophilia, meanwhile sidestepping the fact that Wolfgang used the situation to completely deflect from what he did, and Wolfgang has known Avalon since he was 16, and Avalon has...
That's also retarded if anyone in chat is calling you a pedophile, and I've said it on this stream, I don't care about chat. I do, I love you guys, but I don't care about what they're saying about you right now. I have said in this stream, I am not calling you a pedophile or a groomer, Parlo. But nevertheless, regardless of the wording you're using, if you come in and say, this guy is having sexual conversations in his Discord full of minors, what do you think that accusation is then? What accusation do you think you're making?
Why are we basing this off of subjectivity? He had sexual conversations in his Discord server, and there were minors present in it. That is completely true. It's undebatable.
Sure, but then what does that make him?
I don't know. I haven't made a definitional claim, have I? No one here has. You can criticize it without pinning a term on it. Just because you're inappropriate in spaces with minors doesn't make you a groomer or pedophile. I haven't made the claim that he gets off to these conversations, have I?
So you're
That'd be wholly disingenuous unless I had evidence.
But then, yeah, and I agree with you. But then if your claim there is he's negligent or he doesn't moderate properly, that is a very different claim to he's putting minors at risk. And when you are making claims like this, you kind of have to label them in some way, because if you let the audience read them just however they want, the accusation towards you is, well, you're just leaving this hanging in the air. You're building up a picture of Wolfgang where he is a danger without saying it yourself, and then running behind a comment section going, well, actually, chat said this. Chat said this. These people said, I never said that verbatim. It's like, but you're clearly building the implication against him.
I did put labels on it. Conditioning when he was a minor, and escalation after he turned 18. Two definitive labels that cannot be contested.
Well, that's a grooming allegation. Conditioning when he's a minor to escalation is a grooming allegation.
If you derive that response from it, I think that tells. I think that's entirely dependent on you. I mean,
I don't think that's entirely dependent on me.
His action.
What would you? Okay,
his actions.
describe it. Describe to me what grooming is. Define grooming for me.
Wait, let's do this first after I say that as well. First of all, grooming is I would argue grooming has quite a lot of definitions and factors that come into play. It's a very large topic. I would say it's someone of a higher position or level of authority, normally someone who's older, conditioning someone to sexual-based topics of conversation in order to elicit something out of them for their own sexual gratification. It is a long, methodical pattern of behavior, and it is done intentionally.
Which, isn't that just what you said that IA did to Avalon? He conditioned him and then escalated after he turned 18. You literally used the word conditioning, and all I'm saying is that is a grooming allegation. I'm just saying, very simply, I'll reiterate, that what you are making is a grooming allegation. Like, you can dress it up in, like, longer sentences and break it down, but at its core, and that's why I asked you to define grooming, you're conditioning somebody from a higher position of authority so for your own sexual gratification, which is essentially what you're claiming that Wolfgang did to Avalon. Saying he conditioned him with sexual images in the Discord and in conversation and in jokes, and then waited, and then when he's like over 18 and susceptible to it, then he's like, okay, cool, now how about a threesome? That's a grooming allegation, Parlo.
I find it very telling that you're not contesting anything I'm saying, by the way, more or less giving him an outlet in order to argue himself out of the situation.
I'm not talking about him.
My video is going to be watertight, undebunkable, and I would love to see him try and wiggle his way out. By the way, can you also ban the people calling me a groomer in the thing and someone threatening to me in the chat? But I find it very telling that there's people willing to make excuses for that kind of behavior.
I don't think I'm excusing anything. I'm telling
people in the chat. People in the chat.
Okay, sure, but that's chat. They're random people on the internet, Parlo. Who gives a fuck? Like, who cares, man? Like, seriously, I don't know why you give a shit. Like, have you said, like, you should see the things that are said about me in chat. They're fucking mental. No one cares. It doesn't matter. It's just randoms on the internet trying to get a rise out of you. Fuck.
Personally, I think Parlo does know exactly what he's implying and is feigning ignorance because he's afraid of committing to a take that could potentially swing back on him. Hence why he hinges on the fact he's not said any of this verbatim despite very heavily implying otherwise. Also, him trying to then swing the pendulum on a cope and see than the others by trying to question their character for daring to quote-unquote defend Wolfgang and or give him an out was very interesting as well, as if you've noticed, Parlo has consistently used the logic that if someone is bad, they therefore shouldn't be defended in any way at all, and takes things a step further by implying those who even dare question the validity of the claims against bad people, they must be weird themselves. It's an extremely childish way to view the world, because while there are people who do bad things, pushing claims that are otherwise dubious in nature or even straight up false is not only just morally incorrect to do, it also gives them an out whenever it comes to this internet drama cycle, as they can now use that as an example of malicious slander. Getting down to the truth is what matters the most here, but Parlo only seems interested in making the person he's going after seem as bad as possible, and shutting down any examples of questioning his narrative by saying, oh wow, you're questioning what I'm saying even though this person did blah blah and blah? Oh, you must be weird yourself. Now before all this, Wolfgang will end up releasing a response video about everything going on in late November, but it's full of him just lying over and over and over and over again, and I'm not gonna bother getting into the nitty gritty because that dude is a snake. He also tries to drag that third guy who was at the Airbnb into this mess some more, only to then behind the scenes threaten to get lawyers involved and sue him for revealing he felt pressured to get involved in the upload. When that news came out, he's now changed his Discord name, telling people to leave him alone and why they keep bothering him despite bringing all this upon himself, and for some stupid fucking reason keeps joining the live streams of those who just want to milk the story dry because he's just as stupid as Parlo and can't ignore his haters. Parlo himself is expectedly planning a response video instead of just dropping his situation because he can't lose a drama and has to somehow come out the winner in his own head, with things seeming to start heading into the predictable path of stupid ass bottom tier internet slop drama. However, this is where things get even more insane, because it turns out this anonymous third party I've been keeping the identity of secret is his own levels of fucked up. This person, better known by his name Avalon, was the channel manager of Wolfgang and Parlo and is part of some UK-based internet influencer channel company. Avalon was also 17 years old but recently turned 18, and so he was there at the Airbnb when Parlo and Wolfgang had their falling out. Now Avalon has said a lot of things that make Wolfgang look pretty bad, but the reason I'm not going to repeat any of that testimony and haven't done so throughout this video is because Himpleton, the guy who kicked all this into gear, will end up revealing on December 5th that Avalon has secretly hated Wolfgang and had been planning to fuck with him for his own sick kicks in a leaked call. A call that, trust me, I know I like to say I don't like to play full calls in my videos, but this shit is that insane I have to play the full 7 minutes here.
No. As much as it would be funny, it can't go into the public light yet. I mean, possibly a couple of months from now, but to be honest, just for the sakes of my own sake, I would rather it not be public, just because slightly inconvenient. And if it went public, it would have to be done very right, and it'd probably have to be seen as some sort of gay up against Wolfgang. It would fuel conspiracy theories, but and it would also possibly devalidate a lot of Parlo's points, even though what happened factually happened. So it's just kind of better to not mention it. My kind of philosophy through this whole thing is shit shouldn't be mentioned until it's helpful to Parlo's side. For about 15 minutes before Wolfgang woke up and came into the living room, me and Parlo were making out. The second that Wolfgang came in, Parlo immediately got up and went to the opposite sofa and the opposite side of the room. I think the main one, the one that's been used to debunk this whole thing, is where Parlo was oh, I want my dick sucked. On the second there. This is kind of me extrapolating from that. I know the reason why he made that comment. I think it was because the same day he was mentioning how he wants me to come back with him to his house so we could fuck. And he wanted to spend the night with me. And he made that comment because we were chatting and he was into me and he was probably horny. And he just kind of reflected that on Wolfgang. I think that is the only reason that comment was made. Or that.
So you intentionally did it to cuck Wolfgang?
Yeah, basically.
Right.
Me and Crypt, right, we basically had this thing called Operation Wildcard. It went on for about a month, but it was actionable for about 2 days. Basically, we were Wolfgang's annoying as f***. Why don't we just cuck him? We've wanted to drop him for a while, before all of this shit. We decide, while we're at it, we might as well have the achievement of cucking him. Because he was so obsessed with Parlo, we were just yeah, might as well. Wolfgang obsessing over Parlo for 3 months. Didn't even take me 30 minutes. And basically we did it because he was annoying as f***, and we basically wanted to get up him for a trial. And he's yet to find out, because what we want to happen is we want him to find out and him to have a massive crash out. That's the reason why we want, we've kept it secret from him. But it's not going to be for long, because basically we want him...
You want to provoke him to publicly humiliate himself?
Not to publicly humiliate himself, but we just want him to have a total ego death. Because, him trying to, brag about, you've seen that, publicly, I still had sex with Parlo, as much as he's having, this whole... And he's kind of, bragging about it. I don't know if I'm the only one that's, me and Crypt have been the only one that have, recognised that. But it genuinely seems like he has been bragging.
Having sex with a Roblox drama YouTuber is not a brag.
Yeah, but, he's trying to brag about it. And we're just kind of laughing to ourselves, because we know when we spill the beans with him, it's going to be so funny. I'm going to drop him, and then I'm just going to say, oh, by the way, you know how you've, were obsessing over Parlo for 3 months straight? Yeah, I him 2 hours before he landed, mate. I just, like, we just think it'd be quite funny.
Wait,
we just think it'd be quite funny.
Had you guys, like, already decided you weren't gonna, like, entertain Wolfgang, so to speak, but before he even arrived?
Oh, to be fair, the night before all of this happened, me and Spar got on a call with Parlo and said, like, yeah, Wolfgang's kind of been obsessing over you for the past, like, 2-3 months. Yeah. And he's, like, and he continuously spoke about, like, how he wants to, like, have kids, like, adopt kids with you and get married and shit. And
Is that in DM or is that in voice chat?
that in voice chat again. We should have recorded it. Basically, Paulo said after that, it's like, after what you told me, I'm not really comfortable around Wolfgang, but, like, it's kind of too late. I can't wait to see this on some commentary live stream 2 days from now. Oh, hey, that's me.
What did I jump into?
You can basically clip anything I say, except the shit about me, Paulo. Like, you have my express permission to clip literally everything I say about Wolfgang. Like, he's a, like, piece of shit groomer gooner who obsessed over Paulo for 3 months and talked about how, like, adopting kids, getting married and moving in with him. Like, clip that all you want, because that's my opinion of him, and he can go himself. But just don't mention the shit about me, like, Paulo, just because it kind of throws a spanner in the works, like, more than there's spanners in the works right now.
Is it because it affects your public image?
It affects my public image. It'd probably be misinterpreted in, like, the worst way possible.
That's right, Avalon, Wolfgang's business partner, had secretly been working against him because he's probably a fucking psychopath and had literally planned this for so long he named it codename Operation Wildcard with his friends, showing this dude is pretty damn malicious in his own right. Hippleton would end up questioning what was going on, and Avalon would immediately defend Parlo by saying he had no idea he planned to screw over Wolfgang, with Hippleton revealing that Avalon had been calling Wolfgang a groomer despite saying to others what he did wasn't grooming many times beforehand. Avalon would then try to say he was just heated and actually hated Wolfgang the whole time he was working with him and tried to keep it professional. But given the call we just heard, he clearly wasn't being professional and instead just found it funny to mess with the dude whilst he was completely unaware because Wolfgang is stupid. Avalon, of course, was someone that Wolfgang went to advise for making his document and YouTube video, but given he hated him, the advice he gave him was clearly just to keep him going and laugh at him behind the scenes. But that's not even the craziest part, as it turns out that Avalon would indeed admit that he and Parlo were sleeping together, fully confirming what we figured was already the truth. Obviously, given that Parlo is 20 and Avalon was 17 going on 18, this isn't grooming, but Parlo had initially been accusing Wolfgang of grooming Avalon by waiting until he was 18 in order to get sexual with him. In fact, y'all might have noticed that in Avalon's DMs at Wolfgang refers to him as Zillow, the very guy that Guamgo showed in his video being the guy that Wolfgang supposedly groomed, meaning that Avalon is this Zillow guy, and now the story of Wolfgang being a groomer may have all been started simply as a way to maliciously slander the dude by Avalon himself this whole time. On top of that, if Parlo has an issue with Wolfgang supposedly waiting until Avalon was legal to pursue sexual relations, what does that say about him actually ending up going through with the deed himself just a month after he turned 18? You gotta remember, Wolfgang was 21 and Parlo was 20, meaning that the biggest age gap here was 3 years, and so that literally means nothing? Yet by Parlo's own logic, he too is a groomer because they both knew Avalon before he turned 18 and both got sexual with him afterwards, even if Parlo tries to use the excuse that he's 1 year younger as a way to defend himself. Things that end off with Avalon saying he plans to report Wolfgang to the United States and UK police for CP, of course leaving out the context being a relationship Wolfgang was in when he was 19 and the other person was 17. Obviously, we already know legally this is technically CP, but 2-year age gap relationships like this happen all the time, and unfortunately some people aren't smart enough to come to the realization that sharing images like this, even though the relationship itself is completely fine, is still technically illegal. From a moral standpoint, Wolfgang and his friends simply made a bad mistake, and any rational human can see that, but Avalon here, the man who's admitted to hating the guy and wanting to fuck with him for his own entertainment, would of course see this as another opportunity to not only continue to cause stress in his life, but also as a way of getting malicious revenge on him, given Wolfgang threatened to sue him before backing off. Now, do I think Parlo or Wolfgang groomed Avalon? No, not at all. None of these three people were caught up in anything that relates to grooming between one another. Avalon is just an extremely malicious person who wanted to push anything bad onto Wolfgang because he hated him and knew it would make him look bad. The reason he was able to do this for so long wasn't just because of this secret plan he had for the past few months, but also because Wolfgang has done a lot of straight up stupid shit in the past, such as posting furry porn in his Discord server despite knowing there were minors in it and constantly lying about it to the various random small streamers he would go on to. Obviously, this kind of action usually pertains to grooming, but seeing how Wolfgang acts and operates as I've been making this video, I genuinely believe he's just that extremely stupid as a person. He wasn't even thinking about the consequences of his actions or how it could be used against him. It doesn't take away from Wolfgang lying constantly, but the only reason we know he's lying is because he's very bad at it, as I have gone through video stream after video stream of this dude lying to every tiny internet nobody who asks him about what is going on because the dude is just straight up stupid. Like, I cannot stress this enough. He's doing the thing Parlo does where he tries to respond to every single hater and prove him wrong, but he's not good at twisting shit in his favor and just looks like a complete lying piece of shit loser you can't help but just laugh at. Wolfgang is so much of a loser that when he was on Discord chatting on stream, he was using an account named the Yes Man. It turns out this is a second account that Wolfgang made, and he was pretending to be a random anonymous fan in his very own Discord server talking in the third person to hype himself up and talk shit about Parlo. This is complete loser behavior, and it's just so funny to sit back and laugh at him at this point, and he even hinted that he might go back to the furry community to continue making content again one day. I don't even feel bad for him getting made fun of because he brings it upon himself by responding to all these people and doing stupid shit instead of just moving on. But yeah, it's a side plot that while isn't worth going into detail about in a video on Parlo, is certainly shit I'd cover if I made one on the dude himself. Now, people are still thinking about that leaked call, as it heavily implies that Parlo was also in on Operation Wildcard, and so people are now wondering if the entire London trip was Parlo and Avalon putting this plan into motion in order to ruin his life. So, another random small commentary person named Ace would contact Parlo and ask him about this, in which he initially tries to avoid the question by stating since Wolfgang admitted to lying and potentially sexually assaulting him in a stream that there should be no reason people are speaking about any of this still, with Ace of course circling back to his question because that point is irrelevant. Parlo then basically says he had no idea Avalon was planning to screw over Wolfgang like this, meaning according to his own word this was all an Avalon only thing going on that he was not a part of at all. It was very fishy that Parlo and Avalon never made it clear that they were fucking, and therefore it made any and all defenses Avalon made for him ring hollow, but it's pretty easy to put that under the assumption that they knew people would throw out his testimony if they found out they were a thing, and that's exactly what happened, as not a single person trusts Avalon's word against Wolfgang anymore. Now, Parlo did end up having that meeting with the police on December 9th, 2025, except it wasn't actually a meeting as they just instead delayed things to an unknown date until they're ready to sit down and talk. On December 12th, just 3 days later, he would announce his response video was now in the editing stage, meaning we still had to wait a bit before we could finally get some closure to this entire mess going on. After a couple delays and some random miscellaneous updates on how it was doing, over a month later, Parlo would release his official response video to everything on January 31st, 2026, a whole 3.5 hour deep dive into the recent shit that went down when Wolfgang dropped that document months ago. Given the length of the video and the fact Parlo has a storied history of constantly repeating himself or adding unnecessary information, I will quickly mention the stuff that isn't too important just to keep y'all in the loop as much as I can. Here are the timestamps that Parlo provided in the description, and the highlighted parts is what I planned to go into detail on. I'm gonna save the Wolfgang stuff for the end as it's the bigger piece of the pie here, so we'll get into the Dupe stuff first, in which Parlo basically just says he's not a predator because Dupe lied about his age. He then explains in hindsight that he was stupid for not catching on to Dupe being weird about his age, such as not showing his face and actively trying not to do so, and plays some old clips from his other videos talking about it to wrap things up. No mention of how he, Guamgo, and Mugen made a group chat to harass Dupe, but I ain't surprised about that, so I'll be moving on. When it comes to the Mugen stuff, he explains what we already know about that and says how Mugen broke the law and was being an asshole for wiping his channel like that, which while I'm confident that most people agree, it's really hard to actually care because Parlo is that much of an unlikable figure online. He then shows that he sought out legal advice and went to the police on what to do about him as well, but given he willingly gave Mugen channel manager permission and he wasn't hacked by him or anything like that, I'm confident this won't go anywhere. Parlo's closing statements are basically him just rehashing how just because he's wrong about stuff mentioned in the video doesn't mean he was wrong about other unrelated situations he's involved himself in, and specifically says that he's actively changing as a person.
I want to prove via action that I am changing rather than just staying it and reverting back to my old ways. I want to prove via action that I am changing as a person.
Now the Defender stuff, arguably the most insane and deranged topic of everything exposed about Parlo recently, was literally only mentioned for about 20 seconds total, in which he says that he's making a video solely dedicated to that entirely with no release window currently. Now finally getting into the big kicker here. Parlo would get into the Wolfgang stuff by breaking down the story from the beginning, similar to my video you're currently watching, and also showing how he lied about having explicit verbal consent when being pressed about it in a live stream by that Himpleton guy. He then gets into the GoFundMe situation and shows screenshots of using the money made for it only for food and rent as advertised. But I did notice the money on food was specifically on eating out, as Greg's and Nando's aren't grocery stores but rather fast casual food establishments instead, something that I feel is worth pointing out for the sake of it. He also shows that he refunded people after coming around to understand that he did scam his fans, and apologizes for being a scammer and being so stupid about that entire situation.
I take full accountability for the act of scamming, deceiving my fans, and violating their trust in the process. And for that reason, I have taken steps to give the money back, after I had my dad transfer funds from my account, to which I'm actively using, to refund everyone who donated to the GoFundMe. And I will ensure to never make a GoFundMe again, because I have violated the trust of my audience, and it simply cannot be amended. I'm not in a position where I should ever make a GoFundMe again.
The most notable thing to me, however, is when talking about Avalon, in which he never not once brings up the fact that he and Avalon were fucking, meaning that any testimony Avalon makes in Parlo's favor or against Wolfgang are thrown out the window because he cannot be trusted. At one point, Parlo even tries to deny that he called Wolfgang a groomer because he never typed that word into his Google document he made about him, but we already know he very much was implying it without outright saying it verbatim when the news first dropped, especially after seeing that conversation he had with Cope and Seethe months earlier, so to see him continue to try and play semantics like this is pretty rich given months prior others already proved how much of a scumbag he was being when trying to bring this rhetoric to light.
Not once was he accused of in my document.
He then brings up how Wolfgang posted furry porn in his Discord server where minors are present, even if the consensus by this point was that he's not a groomer but just really stupid and irresponsible, but that's besides the point, as Parlo would then get into his experience with the dude himself in the final section pertaining to all this. This section is dedicated mainly to proving how Wolfgang didn't get explicit verbal consent for sexual acts from him and Avalon and lied about that to people initially, but it's really hard to take any of this beyond a grain of salt because at the end of the day, it's all just a he said she said kind of situation where Parlo says that Wolfgang sexually assaulted him and Wolfgang says he didn't because of Parlo's body language at the time. I know that situations like this unfortunately happen in the real world, and so it's not to take away from someone's experience if things truly went as bad as Parlo says, but when it's only just testimony and people's words against each other, there's not much you can really do other than just sit by and look at the shit show. This part goes on for a good 40 minutes of the hour and 40 minutes dedicated to the Wolfgang and GoFundMe situations, but at the end of the segment, nothing's really changed here. Parlo and Wolfgang are both clearly deranged in their own respective ways, and given both have said their own different versions on what went down in that Airbnb together whilst both being known manipulators, the only correct thing for bystanders keeping up with or covering the story to take away with is to just let things stay as a he said she said situation and move on. Despite their response dropping and people assuming he would move on without any drama stirring up, this wouldn't be the case, as within the very YouTube video premiere chat as it was playing, Parlo was already back on his shit as he would accuse somebody named Vic of sending him a trans gore porn video when he was 17 years old and questioning his identity at the time. Now that's quite the accusation to make, as it sounds pretty messed up to do that, except after hopping into a livestream on Himpleton's channel to discuss the situation with Ruben Sim, it turns out that it was actually a transgender surgery video instead when Vic was clarifying to him if that's the future he wants for himself.
Okay, so he played, okay, so you do understand
So he played a video of a surgery that you were being groomed into getting by a pedophile to show you how dangerous and harmful a surgery like that would be.
Vic himself will then show up a few minutes later and clarify this is a surgery video and not gore porn like Parlo is maliciously framing the situation to be, meaning this whole drama that he got himself into was again his own actions and decisions he made coming to bite him in the ass because he couldn't be honest with everybody.
When I was showing Parlo that video, he specifically kept prodding and basically negging me on saying, hey, can I see this? And I kept reassuring him that, I mean, this is really heavy shit. Like, this isn't, like, are you sure you can handle this? Are you sure? And he reassured me saying, yep, I can handle it. My name's Parlo, by the way. Like, okay. Anyways, no, Parlo, you 100% prodded me and fucking negged me on to show you. And I kept telling you,
like,
kept telling me
to watch it. You kept saying, come on, little guy, watch it. Come on, buddy, watch it, watch it, watch it. It's literally what you were doing.
That didn't happen. You and I both know that didn't fucking happen.
I distinctly remember that is what you said. It was really
whenever you get in a heated argument with anyone, you seemingly change the story or twist it into a narrative that makes you the fucking victim. You know exactly what you're doing. I'm not going to tolerate your retarded fucking fantasy of you saying, oh, this is how it happened. No, I was there. I know what happened. Like, me and Ben both know you. We've interacted with you for years. Why are you fucking lying about this? It just, you lose credibility more and more as you keep continuously lying about this stupid shit.
Things would devolve into some arguing for a short second, but then about an hour later, they would bring up how Parlo severely downplayed his intimate relationship with Avalon when referring to him in his response video, in which he reveals that he is still currently doing sexual things with him after this Airbnb meetup.
Are you and Avalon still engaged in some form of romantic, intimate, or sexual relationship as of right now? And then a second question, have you had encounters post IA's visit?
Yeah.
What? So what you're telling me, and I'm not trying to laugh, is that you are in some form of non-professional relationship with Avalon, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, that perfectly answers why Parlo seemed to downplay their relationship together. He is very clearly biased in Avalon's favor, and Parlo would try to argue with them that this point is irrelevant when it is in fact very extremely relevant, but it's not really interesting to listen to as it's just more of Parlo failing to defend himself. So just a reminder, no, this whole situation didn't transpire over a transgender gore porn video, it was a transgender surgery video, and Parlo was framing it in the worst light possible in order to make Vic look as bad as possible, a classic Parlo action as he's done this kind of skeevy bullshit before, and a sign that despite stating in his response video that he's actively changing as a person, is very clearly not, as within the very premiere of it entirely was already pushing slanderous and heinous claims onto somebody. It's not shocking to see him do this, but just when you think the train wreck is over, Parlo still manages to keep the shit show going, so it is what it is at this point. At the end of his talk with Himpleton in that stream, somebody in the call asked Parlo if he views himself as a lolcow after everything that has gone down, and for almost a second there, you can hear the gears in his brain moving as he doesn't outright deny it, but rather softly downplays the possibility that he might be one.
People like Chris Chan, like there's individuals that get covered on the internet, like Chris Chan and others. Would you consider yourself among their rank? Not necessarily your mentality, but just the level of rake stepping that you kind of get into.
Yeah, I guess I exhibit the behavioral traits of a lolcow. I don't deny that.
This is a sign that he does have a sense of self-awareness going on here, so perhaps it's not too late for the guy and that there's a small chance he could fix himself one day given he's only 20. Either way though, his response video, while not the worst I've seen as there are far worse videos out there, didn't help him out the way he thought it would, as the main situation going on here with Wolfgang fell flat, and the rest was giving attention to random nobodies that no one cares about. The cherry on top was his claim of how he's been changing yet was trying to slander Vic during the very premiere chat and is now back on his drama ship by trying to drag Schlepp's name in the mud in his lust for revenge, showing that he will likely continue to stay the same vindictive and deranged person he is as he continues to spiral further and further downwards. A little over a week after posting his response and trying to revive his career, his second channel, Parlo Gaming, would get terminated off the site for ban evasion, a fate that was something I was certain would eventually happen within a couple weeks, meaning his plan to continue making content on YouTube was now at risk. In some leaked DMs, he seems to be under the assumption that apparently someone needs ties to YouTube reps in order to report for ban evasion and that he, quote, knows who did it, meaning that he clearly thinks someone with inside influence, probably Schlepp in this case knowing his current beef with him, is actively plotting against him by means of using their YouTube contacts to keep him off the platform, another example of Parlo's delusional nature. In his Discord server, he doesn't seem to care about this, which I personally doubt, but whatever, as it seems that he has another plan up his sleeve given he's not spending the time to freak out and try and rally his audience behind him. Parlo is now also going by the name Polar, as you can see right there, and remember that new profile picture he had in that Vic and Ruben sim call together? Well, it seems that he's now on channel number 3 as there's a YouTube channel out there called Polaris Roblox, a channel created back in December 2022 and only consisting of 4 YouTube shorts. It seems this was an attempt at making a shorts channel a couple of years ago before getting bored of it, and now that his 2 most popular channels are completely in the gutter, this is looking to be Parlo's next venture in trying to continue his dead YouTube career, and it's very likely this channel will receive the same fate as the 2 prior, knowing how YouTube themselves are like when it comes to keeping banned creators off their platform. Now back in the premiere chat on his response video, Parlo seemed to be really honing in on Schlepp as one of his new targets ever since he rightfully cut him off after the GoFundMe situation. Given that Parlo is very clearly only going after him now is because they're not on good terms anymore, it seems like just more the dude completely losing his mind on someone he hates now. However, it seemed that Schlepp wasn't out of the woods just yet, as just a couple weeks later in mid-February, Parlo would tease that he had something big planned, and just mere days after that, a very convenient chain of events would be set into motion. In the late hours of February 16th, 2026, a since deleted Twitter user by the name of Deviation would drop a document accusing Schlepp of working with groomers on his YouTube videos, and specifically covered up a situation involving a popular Roblox dev named Minitoon and a 13-year-old. This is quite the damning claim to make against somebody whose entire platform is about exposing predators, except the beginning thesis statement would reveal that Minitoon was 16 himself, meaning this was just a 3-year age gap teenage relationship, a complete nothing burger of a situation. In fact, another situation is about how Schlepp defended somebody named RVVZ, a 16-year-old YouTuber who asked another 16-year-old his very own age for nudes and how that's technically CSAM material. Obviously, that's technically the case here, but I've already said how relationships like this are normal and an act like that is as well, even if it's stupid to do, meaning the writer of the document here was really reaching for something to use to make Schlepp look as bad as possible. I mean, for fuck's sake, they're literally trying to get mad at Schlepp for choosing to not cover the Potamer stuff because he has a personal belief to not cover situations that involve minors or people who were minors when it happened, as if Schlepp is obligated to cover everything that comes out. They even try to bring up that Schlepp has a different opinion on what went down and believes it's not child, but still believes Potamer is a weirdo that deserves to get called out, but that's just his opinion on the matter, and again, Schlepp isn't obligated to cover a story he doesn't want to. This document will blow up immediately in the writer's face because it was blatantly made with the intention to maliciously ruin Schlepp's life whilst dragging other people's names in the mud, and of course all this will go literally nowhere less than 24 hours later because people figured it out pretty easily here. The big kicker, however, was that they would also figure out very quickly that Parlo was one of the very writers of the document, as his email was not only attached to it, he talked about its impending release and its post-release reception on Discord with people. It all became clear that he was just one of the many people trying to ruin Schlepp's career, and in Parlo's case, the people can tell he wasn't doing it for his wrongdoings, but because he didn't like him anymore and wanted to get back at him, even at the cost of other people's reputations. Now Parlo would again hop onto a Himpleton livestream to talk about it, but it's not really anything of interest, as the only part worth mentioning is when Ruben Sim joined to talk about the document, in which Parlo would refuse to admit that he was one of the writers despite everybody knowing he already was one.
I think I've got a more than fair question. What am I being accused of here?
Making the document. Making the document.
The crime.
I didn't accuse you of a crime. I'm asking if you feel like an answer would incriminate you, and that's why you don't want to answer.
I did not make any of those damn documents. I did not make the Ace Narrator document.
Didn't
make the RVVZ document.
No, I'm asking about the Schlepp document.
This is so, like, this is an
the Schlepp document that we're talking about that fuses all of these documents together. You didn't make that? I mean, if you didn't make it, you could just tell us you didn't make it.
I don't believe there's genuinely any point in this conversation, because if I say no, then you're just gonna. No, very evidently, like, in terms of a
5 times, right? Did you put me in the document 5 times, or was that someone else? I mean, it was a screenshot.
I don't even think that you were mentioned in the document 5 times.
I was mentioned
2 or 3 times.
Dude, there's a screenshot of me in your chat from your 3-hour video. You're telling me that wasn't you that put that in there?
Did I make it abundantly obvious? And by the way, A-loggers can clearly go to this video. You could clearly tell that I stated that I forwarded information, like no shit.
Okay, so you're saying that.
And by the way, no, and those screenshots were taken from Kiwi Farms. Those screenshots of the live chat were taken from Kiwi Farms. Because I got the screenshots from Kiwi Farms.
So you got the screenshot, and that's your screenshot.
No, I didn't take the screenshot of it. Was a screenshot of a screenshot. Yes.
Okay, and you put that in the document.
No, I forwarded the screenshots.
Okay, so you played a part in the document. Because I'm looking at a Discord message that you sent today at 9:44 a.m. where you said, "I played a part," as in creating the document. So I mean, the fact that you don't even want to admit that you made this document, I think tells me everything I need to know. So I'm asking you about the document. Did you make it? Yes or no? And if any word comes out of your mouth other than yes or no, that's you dodging the question. Did you make the document? This doesn't sound like yes or no. This is not a yes. Did you make the document? Yes or no?
This is unbelievable.
Okay. I think that's all. That's the only question I have. That's all I need to ask. I mean, the fact that Parlo won't even stand by his own document and admit that he made it shows that he knows that it's bullshit, and he knows if he like defames these people, they're gonna drag him to court and they're gonna clean him out. So
I'm sorry, what? There's
that's all I
defamation.
got.
Can you please
I don't
point out the
think- I don't
defamation?
think anyone should believe a document that its own creator won't even admit is his.
Can you please point out the defamation? We could play this like
I don't
ring
have
around the
to.
roses with the.
I don't have to.
Would you-
You've pointed it out for me because you won't
I have
even
not
admit
pointed
that
out
the
any
document's yours.
defamation. Whoever made the
Okay.
document doesn't change a fucking
Whoever
thing.
made the
con-
document, Slep, it's you, dude. Your Gmail account, SpongeGar, is tied to this document. It has the exact same formatting that you used in the document against Wolfgang. It has
You
the
can
same
refer back to
stupid
the
outline.
Wait,
on
hang
the
on.
screenshots that
You could literally
always use.
refer back to the stream. Yes, I made an iteration. Then it
You
was
made the
changed.
document,
It was
dude.
modified.
The Google account that uploaded the document belongs to you. Okay, let me tell you something else. If any of the people that you defame in this document decide that they want to come after you legally, they can send a subpoena to Google, find the email address, find out exactly who owns that Gmail account. So if this is the game you want to play, that's on you, dude. But I think it tells everyone all they need to know when you won't even admit that the document is yours.
It's not shocking he was involved in this mess and that he won't admit it despite the evidence literally saying otherwise. And if anything, this further cements his legacy as a newborn lolcow who people will orbit until the milk runs dry. Minitoon has since come out stating that he plans to pursue legal action against those who slandered his name, so it's looking like Parlo might be in for some shit in the future, but only time will tell if that comes to fruition or not. He's also planning to start a new channel to upload content on, this time with his friend Frav as the owner and him as a manager under a Google account he plans to make using a VPN, again trying to circumvent his ban on YouTube to continue chasing his dead career. The fact he revealed this publicly in his Discord server already ruins the plan, as once YouTube sees this, that channel will face the same fate as the other two, but that's Parlo's delusional nature coming full force again, so it is what it is. As we can see, the story of Parlo and his YouTube career is a story that can't really be put into simple words. He is a very clearly insane person straight up, constantly doing crazy and stupid things and starting drama with anyone and everyone he can because of his impulsive and aggressive nature. On top of that, he has shown himself to be extremely manipulative as well, constantly hyperbolizing, skewing the context, or even lying about situations in order to get to whatever the goal he has in mind is, be it trying and failing to defend himself from the GoFundMe scam initially to slandering Vic on a livestream, or even when creating the biblical epic that was his 3.5-hour response video yet refused to talk about one of the most disturbing connections that any YouTuber has ever had on the internet, rather planning to save it for another video entirely and instead spent all that time on stuff that wasn't as important. There's really no better way to explain Parlo's deranged nature than with the latest breaking news. That being that Parlo, the guy who was arguably groomed by Nathrix for so many years and someone who came to understand that and continuously exposed the dude online whenever possible, had secretly gotten back into his good graces in January 2026 when trying to get dirt to use on Schlep for his document in the early hours of February 22nd, 2026. That's right, somebody who is directly negatively affected by this person and showing publicly how he now understands they're a massive freak who should never be contacted decided he would get back into contact with him so that he could plan his revenge tour against Schlep. I don't need to say anything else about this, as this news coming out says enough about everything going on here as we wrap things up. Shout out to my channel members for helping support my content, and shout out to my bestie tier members Ras Roland, Nami, Cody, Laura Hertzman, Cheems, Mystical GB, Hyper aka V, and Trendy Dragon. Go check out my Patreon and YouTube memberships if you want to support me yourself in the description below, and I hope you join as soon as you can. After going through it all here from beginning to this end, it's clear that Parlo never actually cared about exposing people for the greater good of the Roblox scene or general internet populace. He simply just wanted a way to inflate his ego and be the hero at the end of the day, alongside making that sweet, sweet YouTube ad revenue. He's a severely mentally ill and deranged individual who will only continue to freefall into infamy unless he gets his shit together, and though I truly wish the guy would get offline and seek out proper help for his mental issues, be it medication or whatever his doctors say, knowing how he's like as a person, that's probably never gonna happen as well. One thing that I have learned though is that Parlo isn't the only Roblox drama YouTuber who's deranged or involved in this scene to inflate their egos, but that's another topic for another time, so with all that being said, I think we can end things off here now.